In the room, there is a table. Across the table, a large sheet of paper. A mechanical arm is mounted on the table. Quietly, it lays down a thin thread onto the paper. Meter by meter, the thread leaves its traces. A landscape appears. The paper is joined to form a conveyor belt. It slowly and constantly moves across the table, taking the newly created landscape with it. The thread falls, a tangle of memory forms. The process ends when the whole spool has been emptied. The tangle gets collected and is filled into a glass jar. The jar with the original thread is marked with the date and a QR code that leads back to a digital version of the drawing that can be retrieved in the online mind. I wrote this about a year ago, and it was the first time that I actually tried to write down an idea that has been lingering in my head for, I guess, 10 years. And as it turns out, writing down an idea might lead to its realization. The idea became a project, and the project is now finished. So let's have a look. The whole thing is pretty much handmade. I had a few sketches, but then started building with the plan of solving the details on the fly. For ease of transport, I wanted the table to be lightweight and foldable, so I went for a frame of aluminium profiles. 2 aluminium rails on the sides of the table are giving the whole thing a frame. And I also used as a rail for the drawing arm and as an attachment for the belt wheels. For the tabletop, I used Pavlonia wood. It is very light, almost like balsa wood. It is fine grained, has a nice texture. I like it a lot. Luckily, I had a rest of hardwood floor finish that I could use. Not so luckily, I had to completely remove it later on because it turned out to be too yellow and did not match the redness of the beech wood legs that I later decided to put under the table. The whole thread transport and its mounting on a gantry cart was one of those details that I wanted to solve on the fly, and here's a nice example of my working process. I buy a bunch of stuff that I think might be useful, and then I basically start thinking with my hands, playing around, trying to figure out how this can be assembled in the most simple and elegant way. Then I do a few sketches, maybe even a more detailed plan that I can, in this case, already use as a drilling template. And voila! Here we have a gantry cart that will later hold the thread transport. I was a bit frightened that the whole thread spooling might become a problem. It needs to be quite precise and in sync with all the movements of the drawing axis and the belt. So I made this prototype with a modified filament transport from a 3D printer. Okay, so now let's put all this together. The brain of the table is again a combination of a Raspberry Pi with an Arduino. It thinks up procedural landscapes that it then converts to one endless stroke with the same process that I have described in my previous video. Just that this time it is not only a virtual thread that is computed inside a digital mind, but it is actually then also a real thread that is, at least for a moment, laid out to form the landscape that the computer has dreamt about. In theory, it is an endless process. In reality, everything has an end, and in this case, it is over when the spool is empty. These spools can be quite big, so this can take the whole day or even days. And since the last year was not the best year for exhibitions and public events, let's consider this an online premiere. So may I give you Contemplation und Resignation, my latest brainchild, if you so will. B-roll, off you go.